a lot of quarterbacks out there are getting carried by their receivers.
Dalton to the end zone, down the field, and it is deflected. Caught! A.J. Green!
Previously here at Total Pro Sports, we did a video on 10 NFL wide receivers who owe their entire careers to a specific quarterback. Well, we're gonna give receivers the extra love for this list. With that said, here are 10 NFL quarterbacks who all owe their career success to one specific wide receiver. Steve Young, Jerry Rice. Young deserves every bit of credit from shedding the bust label that plagued him during his early years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Young masterfully replaced Joe Montana as the guy in San Francisco and helped the 49ers to a fifth Super Bowl championship in the 1994 season. That right there cemented Young's legacy and spot in the Hall of Fame. But let's be realistic for a second. This dude owes his entire career to Jerry Rice. Young got nothing going in his 2 seasons as the Bucs starter, but once he was paired with Rice and San Fran, Young went off. Life is just that much easier when the greatest wideout in NFL history is your go-to guy. Consider that Rice had 149 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns in the 49ers Super Bowl 29 blowout win over the San Diego Chargers, the day where Young finally got the monkey off his back. Also keep in mind that Rice put up over 1K receiving each year where Young was San Fran's main QB, except for 1997 when the former was limited to 2 games. Young could have been a very good QB without Rice, but a 2-time MVP, 7-time Pro Bowler, 5-time completion percentage leader, 4-time passing touchdowns leader, Super Bowl champion, and Hall of Famer? Yeah, not possible without Rice. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. All right, we can hear the screams of many angry Falcons fans. But what if we let our friends at Stat News show you Ryan's stats through his career without Julio Jones? 73 touchdowns, 50, that is 50 interceptions, and a passer rating of 88.0. Not exactly MVP caliber now, is it? Ryan threw for 4,000 yards in 10 of his 14 seasons with the Falcons. Jones was on the Falcons in each of those 10 seasons. As well, Ryan's 8 best single-season passer rating numbers were all while as a member of the Falcons. There's no way he would have won MVP in 2016 without Jones and his 1,409 receiving yards. And the Falcons don't get oh so close to winning the franchise's first Super Bowl without arguably the best receiver of his era. Jones missed 7 games in 2020 to injury and was traded to the Tennessee Titans in 2021. Ryan was never the same without Jones on a full-time basis. A trade to the Indianapolis Colts in 2022 only resulted in the worst season of Ryan's career. And it's largely because he didn't have an in-his-prime Julio to feed him the ball. Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss. Culpepper was the Minnesota Vikings' main starter from 2000 to 2004. In that span, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler who tossed a league-leading 33 passing touchdowns in 2000 and a league-leading 4,717 passing yards in 2004. Culpepper also led many to 2 playoff appearances, including the 2000 NFC Championship game. But let's take a quick moment and consider why Culpepper was actually so good for a 5-year period. Oh yeah, because he had the second best receiver of all time to throw to. You know, this guy named Randy Moss, the greatest deep threat ever, the guy who averaged nearly 16 yards per reception during his time with the Vikings. Consider that Moss caught 15 TD passes in 2000, almost half of Culpepper's total. Can we also mention that Randall Cunningham and Tom Brady had their best individual seasons with Moss as their WR1? It's just something that GOAT receivers do. And then when Moss was traded to Oakland in 2005, Culpepper's career just imploded. He had 6 TDs and 12 picks in 7 game appearances that year. Culpepper was subsequently traded to the Miami Dolphins, making just 4 starts and continuing to show that he couldn't do anything without Moss. Culpepper also had short stints in Detroit and Oakland, but both of them went nowhere. Dave Craig, Steve Largent. Craig played for the Seahawks from 1980 to 91, so let's just say that he wouldn't have lasted that long as Seattle's starting QB without Hall of Fame wideout Steve Largent. Craig didn't become the Seahawks' full-time starter until his 5th season in 1984. That year, Largent went off for 74 catches, 1,164 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So without Largent, Craig wouldn't have thrown a career-high 32 TDs that year. Craig had his best years when Largent was at the top of his game and a sure threat for 1K receiving. And then the 3-time Pro Bowl QB was just never the same. Over the next 2 years without Largent, Craig threw 26 touchdowns against 32 interceptions. Now to Craig's credit, he had one solid year with the Kansas City Chiefs as their starter in 1992 and with the Detroit Lions in 1994, though Barry Sanders was kind of the main reason for Detroit's success that year. But Craig didn't put up all-world numbers once Largent retired. He went on to endure disappointing stops in Arizona and Chicago before playing out his final 2 years as a backup in Tennessee. Hey, I mean, at least Craig had Largent for a large chunk of his career there. Andy Dalton, A.J. Green. Do you think that it's a coincidence that the Bengals were football's worst team in 2019 with Dalton as their starting QB and without Green for the entire season? During his 9-year run as the Bengals starting QB, Dalton was a solid but never elite QB. Yes, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler who helped Cincy to 3 playoff berths and a pair of AFC North Division crowns, but maybe it's because during his run as the Bengals QB, Green was a borderline top 5 receiver in the game. From 2011 to 2017, Green recorded over 60 receptions and over 900 receiving yards each year. Green would have hit 1K receiving 7 years in a row to begin his career if he didn't miss 6 games in the 2016 season. Injuries limited Green to 9 games in 2018. Dalton also missed time and was limited to 11 games, and his play was nothing close to the Pro Bowl form we saw in Cincy some years earlier. Dalton's subsequent play in Dallas, Chicago, and New Orleans left a lot to be desired. It's almost as if this guy wasn't able to really produce without a Hall of Fame caliber wideout at his disposal. Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson. Schaub was the Houston Texans' main starting QB from 2007 to 2013, and where in the world would he have gone if he didn't have a Hall of Famer to throw the ball to? Schaub broke out in 2009 by leading Houston to a 9-7 record, which marked the franchise's first winning season. He led the NFL with 4,770 passing yards and threw a career-high 29 touchdowns. Schaub can thank Andre Johnson for that. The latter finished as the NFL's leading receiver for the second straight year, having racked up 1,569 yards. So, yeah. Schaub's second Pro Bowl nod came in 2012 when the Texans won the AFC South with a 12-4 record. Johnson, too, was the reason for Schaub's success that year, racking up 112 catches for 1,598 yards and 4 touchdowns. Schaub stunk it up big time in 2013 and lost his starting job, and Houston parted ways after that season. Schaub spent the remainder of his career as a backup, not exactly surprising since he no longer had Andre Johnson to throw the ball to. Mark Brunell, Jimmy Smith. Brunell spent 9 seasons with the Jaguars. He was their main starting QB for 8 years from 1995 to 2002. He helped them with 4 playoff appearances and 2 AFC title game appearances, including in 1996, just the club's second year of existence. But the 3-time Pro Bowler and 1996 passing yards champion was never really elite. His numbers made him look better than he actually was, thanks to star wideout Jimmy Smith, who recorded 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons from 1996 to 2002. Consider that Brunell barely averaged over 200 passing yards per game as a Jaguar. With Jacksonville, he never topped 20 TD passes in a season, and he never surpassed 4K passing yards after the 96 season. And in his 9 years as a Jaguar, Brunell's passer rating exceeded 90 once. Smith was an absolute monster, who also helped Brunell's successor, Byron Leftwich, enjoy his best years as a QB. So yeah, without the vastly underrated Smith as his go-to guy, Brunell would have never lasted in the NFL for as long as he did. Mark Bulger, Torrey Holt. Bulger took over as the St. Louis Rams starting quarterback in 2003, replacing an injured Kurt Warner. Bulger never looked back, earning his first career Pro Bowl nod after throwing for 3,845 yards and 22 touchdowns against as many picks. Bulger can thank Torrey Holt for that, because the latter led the NFL in receptions that year with 117 and in receiving yards with 1,696. Let's put it this way, Bulger averaged 256.3 passing yards per game that year, and Holt averaged 106 receiving yards per game. That is basically accounting for 40% of Bulger's passing yards in any given contest. Without Holt, Bulger wouldn't have led the Rams to consecutive playoff appearances in 2003 and 2004. It's also no coincidence that after Holt's final Pro Bowl season in 2007, Bulger went 3-20 over the 2008 and 2009 seasons with 16 touchdowns against 19 interceptions. If he didn't have Holt to throw to, Bulger would not have been a 2-time Pro Bowler, nor would he have been a starting QB for 7 years. Jake Delhomme, Steve Smith Sr. Delhomme unexpectedly broke out for the Carolina Panthers in 2003, winning 10 of 15 starts despite throwing for a mere 3,219 yards and 19 touchdowns against 16 interceptions. Not exactly elite numbers, but they would have been worse without Steve Smith Sr. That year, Smith hauled in 88 receptions for 1,110 yards and 7 touchdowns. The duo helped Carolina to an unexpected trip to Super Bowl 38, where they dropped a last-second heartbreaker to the New England Patriots. Delhomme's lone Pro Bowl selection came in 2005, not so coincidentally when Smith earned the receiving triple crown, having led the NFL in catches, receiving yards, and TD receptions. Carolina advanced to the NFC title game, where they fell to the Seattle Seahawks, though. Carolina won the NFC South with a 12-4 record in 2008, even though Delhomme completed less than 60% of his pass attempts for 15 touchdowns and 12 picks. We wonder why they did so well with mediocre quarterback play. Oh yeah, largely because Smith had 78 catches for 1,421 yards and 6 touchdowns. Then Delhomme imploded in the divisional round loss to the Arizona Cardinals, throwing 5 interceptions in a 33-13 blowout loss. Delhomme started 4 games for the Cleveland Browns in 2010, throwing 2 TDs against a whopping 7 interceptions. Man, it's really like Delhomme was hardly able to function without Smith Sr., huh?
I'm a mess without you. I miss you so damn much. I miss being near you.
Why don't you stop talking for a while?
Maybe sit the next couple plays out.
Jeff Garcia, Terrell Owens. Following the retirement of Steve Young, Garcia took over as the 49ers starting QB in 2000. Thanks to the presence of Terrell Owens, the transition from backup to starter was an easy one for Garcia. He earned 3 straight Pro Bowl nods from 2000 to 2002, leading the 49ers to a pair of postseason appearances. In that 3-year span, T.O. surpassed the 90-catch and 1,300-yard marks each season. He also tallied 42 total touchdowns over that span, leading the league in TD receptions over the 2002 and 2006 seasons. In 2004, Garcia signed a 4-year deal with the Cleveland Browns worth $25 million. He recorded a then career-low passer rating of 76.7 and had just 10 touchdowns against 9 interceptions. Garcia bounced around the league and wound up helping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the NFC South Division crown in 2007, though the defense was the catalyst of that club. After leaving San Fran, Garcia never threw more than 13 TD passes in a season, and he never hit 3,000 passing yards ever again. Yeah, I guess he can thank Mr. Owens for that brief run of success on the West Coast. But what other NFL QBs owe their entire career to a specific wide receiver? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.